Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer. Um, a quick, some quick announcements before this episode. First of all, I want to thank everyone for if you made it to our live panel at the Asheville Herb Fest. Thank you. If you are listening to this and you have discovered us there, doubly thank you. We really appreciate it, and I just want to do a little apologizing because my co-host Ellen was sick and I was doing all of the technical stuff and then all of the podcast stuff, and it was a little challenging for me. So I don't think I was at my best. um, so I know it was a little chaotic, and but I appreciate it. Um, and we had I don't know, like 17 people in the audience. So that was cool. And we hope to do more of these types of events. Hopefully, Ellen will make it. So I'm not doing all the tech stuff. All the tech stuff is new to me as well. So I'm doing a lot of learning. And also being live in front of people is new. As you know, I can sit here and talk over the internet and no problem, but live people, it makes me nervous. It does. But everyone was so nice, and next time it'll just be better. It'll totally be better. We'll just keep getting better, and we definitely hope to do more of that. Another thing I want to mention is we are going to be taking a break. I have some health issues that I've been dealing with, super low iron. So I've been so tired that I haven't been able to edit or do much social media. And that's really affected the podcast. You can see that this episode is 2 months late, and we try to get out an episode at least once a month. So it's going to be about 2 months break. I'm not sure when. I know I'm going to put out I'm going to try to put out the Asheville, sorry, I'm going to try to put out the panel podcast for our June episode. I also am moving. We're also buying a house. So in June. So lots of stuff is going on. So that's my goal. And then we should be back. We will be back. Don't worry. We will be back. We just need a break. Ellen has her hands full with her tiny human. She has a toddler, which definitely keeps her quite occupied. And we need to we're going to be recording interviews hopefully during that time, and doing all that stuff that we need to do to be ready to come back. And of course, my dream is to get more than one episode out a month, but I'm still working full time. It's a little challenging. I think that's all the main announcements. Anyway, I appreciate everyone listening to us. I appreciate, all of your support. On that note, please consider subscribing to our Patreon. You can do it for like $1 a month, which really helps us out. The podcast is not free to produce. Definitely. The more support we get, the more I'll be able to do with the podcast, and the more episodes we can get out. And I hope one day to be able to do this full time. So, but we really appreciate it. It really helps out. A review on Apple Podcasts would also help out. If you follow us on YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. That would help us out. Instagram. We have a Facebook group. Any of social media also. So, okay, I know that went on for like 5 minutes, and I apologize for the ramble if you're still here. We have an awesome interview with Craig. He's an extension agent. If you don't know what an extension agent does, you will find out He is so interesting and so fascinating. And we are also going to go out to his place, his farm, and that is going to be like a little bonus video. Pretty excited about that. I'm not sure when that's going to land. We're doing that in June as well. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Braverman.
And I'm Ellen Selm.
And welcome to our podcast, Stories from the Earth,
where we explore humankind's relationship and connection with the natural world.
Okay, so I'd like everyone to take out your phones or whatever devices you're watching and or listening this podcast on. This will be fast. Just take a minute to scroll down to the podcast description where you find the links. And if you had not already, please find your favorite social media platform and give us a quick follow. We really appreciate this, and this will greatly support podcast. Also, and if you love what you hear today and you have an extra $1, $5, or $10 a month, please consider supporting us on our Patreon page. We would also love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions or comments, cool stories to share, suggestions on podcast topics, please feel free to email us at storiesfortheearth@gmail.com. And thank you.
Today we are going to be speaking with a local legend. Is he a local legend? He might not think that's the best choice of words because he's a humble guy, but I'll say it just the same because this man wears or has worn so many hats in his life that it's hard to keep track. Formerly of the North Carolina State University Cooperative Extension Services, the website there you'll find Craig Mauney listed as the Area Specialized Agent for Commercial Fruit and Vegetable Production. But that title hardly sums up his life experiences and interests professionally as well as personally. It's probably safe to say that if it has anything at all to do with plants and cultivating them in Western North Carolina, Craig has knowledge about it, if not some direct involvement with it. So welcome, Craig. We are glad to speak with you today here on the cusp of spring before you get too busy out there in the fields with your wasabi.
Yeah.
So can you, to kick us off here, share with the audience a bit about what your background is? Like, how did you first start even getting into agriculture and nurturing your love of plants?
Sounds good. Yes. Actually, I'm fifth generation from Western North Carolina. So my family is spread out all over there. And I grew up on a farm, a large beef cattle farm. My father was a farm manager. And so living on a farm that's so large, you're a mile from the main road when I was growing up. So everybody else had their t-ball and things in the city. And I grew up just carousing around in the woods. So my grandmother was May Scroggs from Brasstown, and she was an herbalist that I never really listened to be honest. I was just labor for her. But that's where I began to learn the passion of native plants, particularly. My grandmother would send me out. I need some Indian cucumber root for the salad, or I need you to go out and get so-and-so. So I learned without realizing that I was using native plants as a young 10, 12-year-old kid and just didn't care about the animals as much that we grew up with. It was all about the nice edible things. And that's kind of where I got my passion. And then being around the folk school, Johnson Campbell Folk School, and spending time there, I learned about Berea College in Kentucky, and it was they already had a sustainable program in the early 70s. And so that was my passion and took off and went to school at Berea. So that was kind of where I hit it out of the mountains, and it was the mountain boy going to the city to me, and it wasn't even a big city. It was like 3,000 people.
Jennifer, I think he just also answered your question more or less.
Yes.
But maybe...
Well, I can, about formal education. I can expand on that a little bit because I haven't really received any big advanced degrees like PhDs and things like that. I started 3 different master's degrees and went through to like 1 or 2 classes and then just didn't finish, So most of my training has been hands-on, my own farm, that kind of thing. But Extension Service, the North Carolina Extension Service, NC State, has continuing education. So any topic that I had interested in, I would dive into it. Most people growing up read fiction are fun things. And I didn't watch much TV at all, as even through my 20s and 30s. It was reading technical, books, things like that. It was kind of like, how can you possibly be interested in a technical book from a college and finish the thing? So that's the way I built my knowledge base over the years.
Well, can you explain for the audience what agricultural extension agent, like what one is in the most typical sense, and then share with us maybe how your role has become more specialized or kind of self-created through your years of experience?
Sure. Just a little quick long-term history. A lot of folks have forgotten what government in agriculture has transpired over the years. So back in the 30s, there was a real extreme need for being better in agriculture, more technology. And so research began throughout the different universities. Each state was charged to have what's called a land grant university. Most of them had one for blacks and one for whites, and they were completely separated in education. Now they're all combined. So in North Carolina, we have 2 land grant universities that have survived. Most black ones went out and combined with the white ones at the time. So the land grant university was charged with taking research, founding consumer stuff, agriculture, horticulture, community development, and what was the other one? Youth. So that's the 4-H program. Probably everybody's heard about 4-H. My career dealt around, because I really believe in education. I'm a professor with NC State as an extension agent. So I'm an official professor, but I'm what's called a field faculty. So I'm charged to work, or I was early in my career, in a certain county to better all agriculture in the county. And mine was plants. You'll have somebody that works with animals. So the extension agent is charged with taking, research-based information out to the community in many different ways. North Carolina happens to be the second largest, in the area. So it's my job to, however we feel the need, or the community feels the need, to do education. A lot of that's one-on-one. You're visiting with a farmer, you spend hours with them just discussing their needs and things, and then you find out what their needs are, and then you help make them more sustainable and more profitable. So that's kind of what an extension agent is. It's in a little nutshell, rather than getting off into all the weeds about it. What's happened is, because of technology now, extension is not the main driver of that. There's a lot of private institutions helping. All colleges now are all about food. But initially in the 30s, it was just all about extension on horseback, going from community to community, trying to help people learn how to can better, learn how to be safer with water, those kind of things. Now it's very much whatever that county needs. If you're working in Henderson County in North Carolina, it's all about apples. If you're in, up in a mountain county, it could be all about medicinal plants. It's just different wherever the needs are. So that's what's really good about it. Did that help a little bit? It's so confusing what the hell extension is, to be honest.
It sounds really cool. So
Well, I had just first learned of it when I was living in St. Louis, because a coworker of mine at a grocery store I worked at there had started his own little farm on just a couple acres over the state line in Illinois, and then he started singing the praises of the extension agent that was helping him, and it inspired him so much that he actually put his farm on pause and went back to school so that he could become an extension agent. So then when I moved to North Carolina, came back home, got land, and then I was like needing help, and I was like, oh yeah, my coworker told me about this thing called extension. Maybe that exists in North Carolina. And then Craig showed up at my door.
Yeah, a lot of extension agents don't talk like I do. I talk too much,
But I learned so much,
It's all about giving back, really, and I just feel like that an extension agent has this passion of trying to help. So if you've got that help attitude, you're going to be a good agent. My life's been built around that, even my international work, that I do. So,
what is your favorite part about the job? I think my co-host and I agree. It sounds in our minds, kind of like a dream job, which
Oh yeah, it's for me. It is too.
traveling around the region, getting to help people and talk about plants and plant cultivation all day.
To be honest, my job has changed. I used to be an agent in one county. Then I have no interest whatsoever in administration. And I've been pushed in that direction a lot. So that's one reason I probably never finished those degrees, because it's all about academia when you're working for a university. All I want to do is to work with farmers one-on-one and with agents. I went from a one county, moved around quite a bit. Then I became an agent working in multiple counties. My background is fruit and vegetable commercial production and alternative crops, the unusuals, the freaky crops and stuff like that. But my passion really has changed. It used to be I need to work with farmers. And now, as I'm so much older, I almost retired in October of last year and then applied for another job. And then my husband goes, "What in the hell are you doing that for? You absolutely come home every day talking about this agent did this or this farmer's doing this." And so that's I think it's being able to see someone become so empowered to do so much for the environment. It's not just farming, to farm with this passion that you care about the environment. So I'm going to grow a vegetable, but I'm going to grow it in a manner that enhances my environment around me or my social structure around me. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I decided that 2 years ago, I needed to give back more than what I'm doing. It's real important to me to help others. So I started volunteering. I've been going to foreign countries and teaching free. So I spent 2 weeks in Cambodia, 2 weeks in Colombia, South America the past year. And now I'm going in May back to Cambodia and do a needs assessment for sustainable agriculture in that country. Well, I decided, you know what? I'm old now and I need to do things that really please me. It's crazy to do a vacation and spend 8 hours a day teaching, and then your evenings and weekends are free. But someone that's obsessed with trying to make the world better, even at my older age, that's why I'm doing that. In there.
So you're like semi-retired. You're still like consulting or
yeah,
through the university, but the bulk of your focus now is shifting to the volunteer efforts. Or
yes, exactly. And part of that is extension allows me 2 weeks a year to give back, so I don't have to take leave. Well, I've been in extension so long that I get like a month off. It's like next week I'm spending a week teaching for another organization. And experiential learning is what makes the difference. You can lecture, and extension's all about hands-on too. So if there's an opportunity for me to teach and do hands-on things, I'd much rather do that. I'm transitioning kind of like I don't want to ever stop teaching, as long as I can get out there and help, especially folks that are young, like in their 30s and 40s or even in their 20s. They're really still confused. I was confused until I was 50 what I wanted to do.
Like I was trying to express, that's me.
and I'm still changing, I'm still changing, but we have to make it income. We have to do that. So now I'm doing forest farming, As you get into your 50s and 60s, you really become passionate about certain things more than when I was in my 40s. It's like, okay, I'm going to do something that really pleases me rather than
honing in.
You're honing in to what matters to you, and I don't even care about what happens to the plants after they leave me. I just want to grow plants.
Well, not to put you on the spot, but how important and valuable do you feel that state-provided extension services are? Like, do you see the work continuing here in North Carolina in general? Or if someone listens to all this and gets inspired and is like my former coworker and like, how do I become an agent? Like, what education and training would they need to seek, or credentials in order to like even apply? Because like you're saying, you didn't necessarily have a completely formal lineup of education per se yourself.
Experience matters in extension. Just to tell you what's happening nationally with extension, I think will give us a better viewpoint. Because of the private sector and the political movement in the past 10 years, most extension services nationwide have been gutted. And by that, I mean their funding has been cut tremendously because there's a movement since the Reagan administration about privatizing government. So, then is the research really research? What's happened is because of the reputation of extension, say like in certain states, like even Missouri, some of those states, it's become priority for those states to continue funding. Georgia was gutted 75% of their budget. So they no longer have agents like me. North Carolina is the second largest. And North Carolina was smart back in the 60s. We're multi-funded. So we have state funds, federal funds, county funds, and grant funds. So that's why we're the second largest. So we have a commitment to have 3 people in every county, no matter what size the county is. That really makes a difference if the county wants it, because we're grassroots up. Texas is the other, like right below us. California, of course, is the biggest. And I think that's why North Carolina has such an extreme diversity of agriculture, is because of all the differences in that support system. To be an extension agent, just an extension agent working in the county, you only have to have a 4-year degree. And it doesn't have to be a specific degree. It could even be foods, but it has to be a 4-year degree that meets the minimum standard around horticulture, preferably environmental science, food science, horticulture like mine, or mine was agriculture. And then what extension requires you to do is, once you're on board, you have to work on your further education. You either have to get another a master's degree, PhD, or you have to show that you take at least one master's degree course every 2 years. And that's what I did. I decided that I'm going to take a course that's going to better me to work with farmers. So I didn't really go into a degree, because if I get my master's and my PhD, they're going to push me into administration. I don't want to do that. So, I never was qualified even for the position I'm in. It's a PhD position, because I'm a specialist that works 39 counties. So what happened was, because I had so much experience, they recruited me to take the position, because this position requires 20 years of actual working service to do this position. So you have to have had commercial experience to be a commercial agent, that kind of thing. Did that help a little bit with the degree? Because we're getting a lot of environmental science people. I'm on probably 6, interview teams a year trying to hire new people. And so I'm one of those trainers.
I'm working full time, so it would take a really long time for me to earn a 4-year degree. But when I got to the end of it, I guess I would like to know, is there possibility to have a job?
Yes, I'm on a team because we're concerned about turnover in North Carolina. We've had, in the past 4 years, just in one county, we've had 3 agents. But what's happening is the income is not matching the private sector. So we're a training grounds a lot of times for the private sector. We're having a lot of folks come out of college, go right to work in extension, and then they're pulled away because of income. So hopefully in the next few years, we're working on that. I'm on the teams to do that. Right now, we prefer to move all employees with upward mobility. So, that's why there's a lot of entry-level positions in extension, especially in North Carolina. I have a job opening. I'm working right now in Burke County. We had over 70 people apply for it. That's the 3rd time we've replaced that person in the past 4 years. But that particular position, people didn't leave. I did a study to see, why are people leaving? I thought it was because they're unhappy, or it's money and their priorities. I think the younger generations are really good about really looking at what they want to do. So they've got to change jobs to find out what they really want to do. I've talked to the powers that be above me that I'm not very concerned about turnover. I used to be, because I thought it was because, we're doing something wrong, but it seems we're doing things right, because people are working in extension and then they're moving on to better things. The lady in Burke County had an opportunity to have her own farm. I don't really want to teach anymore. I really want to get my hands dirty 150 hours a week.
Is it possible that you would accept someone with like a 2-year degree, or does it have to be 4?
Because it is a faculty position.
Okay.
You have to have a 4-year degree. Now, we do have positions that we call technicians. Like in Yancey County, we have a technician that has a 2-year degree.
Oh,
a little bit less income, and he doesn't do analysis like I do, but he's just working strictly with a certain audience in that county. Buncombe County has like 4 technicians with high school degrees that just work
oh,
with foods and nutrition for underprivileged people. So there are opportunities and then that 2-year degree person, Extension will pay for their education if they want to finish and get their 4-year degree. And then once they get
okay.
a 4-year degree, they're a priority to move into an extension agent over someone that's not already here. And that's very strict on that. A lot of times you're applying for a job and like, oh God, so-and-so's applied too, and they've been in extension 10 years. They're going to give priority to that person, in extension, which that's a change. The world's not been like that, but the last 20 years.
I'm happy to hear that at least in this state, the program seems sustainable or hopefully thriving. But I did kind of suspect your answer was going to be what it was in terms of, on the whole, the program's getting gutted around the country just because that's how so many things have been going. And yes. I feel like as the country has overall in so many ways shifted away from agriculture, like people's grandparents or great-grandparents probably grew up on farms, but then the last couple generations had nothing to do with it. And so I could see it being undervalued exactly. and considered under needed. like states going, oh, do we really need this? And not understanding how they could leverage it, really.
What happened in North Carolina is, of all the offices in the state, we don't have a really good staffing in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County, because Mecklenburg County does not see extension as a priority. It's an enormous city, but they have as much farming as Cleveland County right beside it. But the city itself controls that. So we have 1 or 2 agents, and then we have to pick up the slack from surrounding counties. That's really great observation, Ellen, because a lot of the counties of the states are no longer having agents in the counties. They'll have one person that's doing fruit that manages the whole state.
Oh so my God.
Imagine that, trying to help 500 farmers that are trying to do fruit, for example. And
not to mention, like, different bioregions are going to
exactly
differently.
Exactly. It just frustrates me because of I'm a true educator, and I believe in that. And you can't get everything from the private sector. You've got to have a true education. If you're going to get City Geigy to come in and teach you about growing corn, they're going to be telling you to do all their own products. So Extension doesn't do that. They'll come in and say, okay, here's the options you've got. If you want to produce organically, we're going to help you. You want to produce conventionally, we're going to help you. You're going to be biodynamic, we're going to help you. We're going to help you whatever production system. And that's what I'm worried about futuristically in most of the states that are really cutting back on that.
The funny part is that instead of cutting back, they need to be expanding.
Exactly. There's more population. We
really, really need it, even like just so much more.
I agree. Luckily, North Carolina has done a really good job with not just Extension. All the different nonprofits, the different groups have really focused on local food, the local foods movement. And that has tremendously helped in this state, and other states are looking at this state to mimic what's there. There's a lot of folks out there that have a lot of education backgrounds, but they're not university employees, but that are experienced farmers. And that's what a lot of the movement has done in North Carolina. This podcast you're doing is very important to the community to hear what we're talking about. And I think that's part of education as well. This is an educational event as far as I'm concerned. We're talking about what needs are there too as well. You can tell I like to talk about Extension.
I appreciate you saying that over the podcast. We're very flattered.
I'm not blowing smoke because I really think that's the future of the small farm. We have ways now through electronics to network. When COVID hit, if it wasn't for blogs and podcasts and websites. We were all Facebooking. What's some of the other, although that social media stuff, I'm an old fart, so I don't remember all of it, but that's what really helped these farmers to be able to sell products even. They didn't have the opportunities because of community pulled it together for our state, I feel like, in that trying time of small farms, in that area.
So your office is based out of the Mountain Horticulture Corps Research Center. What interesting horticulture experiments and trials have you been able to participate over over the years?
I got to tell a little bit of history. We have 18 research stations in North Carolina, which is really unheard of in most states, okay? And they're all different. They all have different focuses just to help small farms, large farms. Mountain Horticulture Crops and Research Extension Center actually has an extension component right on the research station. Whereas you go to Waynesville and we do animals in Waynesville and we have an organic unit in Waynesville. So, what's happened in the state of North Carolina is as trends change, like in 1972, that the agents in my position recognized that tobacco was no longer going to be viable in 20 years. The agents come up with this idea, we need to grow something with high value. That's when the tomato industry started in North Carolina and in the South. We thought strawberries, agents, and tomatoes were a great way to transition a crop that's high value to something more valuable to community. So we actually have 3 tomato breeders now at this research station I work at, and I work a lot in tomatoes. That's become a major component of the economics of the larger farms in Western North Carolina. We'll pack out tractor trailer loads a day. We're packing tomatoes from Florida, Alabama into this region and then pushing them out. So the research station itself that I work on is multifaceted. We have new crops and organics that are there. So we have 2 organic units we do research on with products and things. I work with the new crops and organics with all of the forest farming things, all of the natives, the ginseng, golden seal, the cohosh, all those kind of things. And me being a fruit and vegetable specialist, I get involved in all the other things that are there. So the research that we have at this station is apples, peaches, all the tree fruits. We don't do a lot of small fruits because that's done out east. We also do a lot of research on alternative kind of things. I'm doing research right now on cover crops. Grow sweet corn last year without even putting fertilizer out, because we were able to show that we could grow 2 different cover crops, then do a no-till planting, and then there's enough nutrients from the cover crops to take that through a season with sweet corn. Very, very neat. So now 2 other colleges are going to repeat what I did in that research plot to test it out, and then we'll do some more. So
that right there is illustrating so perfectly too why it's important to have extension in a way that's associated to university in a public sense, because yeah, like you were saying earlier, if it was privatized, who knows that it would have gotten the support up the chain that it needed to get the actual scientific backing and take it to the people and say, like, look, this actually works and so forth. That's awesome.
And what's happened in North Carolina is we have insisted to work directly with the private entities. So I was able to work with, say, a seed company. Will you make me this blend of seeds? And now I've proven that this blend of seeds that I'm planting in the fall and then replanting in the spring works to put the right amount of nutrients in there. Now that private sector company can take that and say, this works. I can say so we're actually helping the private sector as well. So it makes it nice in this state. It's not always that way in every state, but in this state particularly, we're doing a lot of that kind of thing together. Like I'm working on paper mulch. I've been working on it now for 12 years. I hate plastic. It's just one of those things that just drives me crazy. So, even organic people are using plastic for weed control. Better if we had some paper that would last long enough to do double cropping and the things that we need to do. So that's what's happening at our research station. And every research station, the public needs to know, they have field days. And it's primarily the public that comes more than the farmers a lot of times, because they're intrigued in what are the new apples, what are the new tomatoes, what are the new corn that's out there. So we have those particular things at the research stations, and each research station is different. If you're blueberries, you're down in the southeast, because that's just where we put them. If you're doing organics, you're at 4 different research stations. We never had any money until the Obama administration to put into organics. Each administration has priorities, and certain politics go away from small farms every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And certain politics pour money into it. So like right now with the Biden administration, there's unbelievable amount of money to work with small farms. We're now doing tests for chemicals, for organics that we've never been able to have the money to do. Our researchers are now actually putting organic into our chem manual, because we have the money to do the research on it. And we won't put anything in there that's not research based. Just last year, in the Southeast Vegetable Handbook was the first year we put every product on the market that we could find that was OMRI listed and organically approved. And that was a milestone for me after working in this for 40 years to get them to publish a research-based manual, things that I've been saying were anecdotal for years, but now we're saying work.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
And the Mountain Research Station wasn't that one of the ones doing a lot of hemp research too, in terms of trying to figure out things that would grow in the mountains?
I forgot about that. Yeah, we're of the 2. There was one in the Piedmont and one here. We did and we're still doing it. We do intensive research on hemp. We did a lot the first few years on the components for CBD oils and extraction. Now we're working on the fiber end of it. We also are the research station that does the research on hops. We were saying for 20 years, you can't grow hops good here. You can grow them, but we have too much water, too much problems. We're now releasing bred hop varieties that are working for Western North Carolina. Which is exciting to have that, to say we have our own varieties that brewers can use, in our area here. We're moving from slicer apples or edible apples to now cider apples for the cider industry. So we'll be releasing that information in a few years too.
Now, aside from working at Extension Services, I also know you through involvement with the Asheville Herb Club and the nonprofit Appalachian Beginning Forest Farmers Coalition. Can you speak a bit more about these other organizations?
Yeah, I'm on the board of Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project. That's a marketing 501c3 for the local foods movement. And Extension actually helped start that organization many years ago, 21 years ago, because always we can't meet the needs of everything. And we really needed for these small farms in Western North Carolina a support system for marketing. For, about 25 years ago, Extension got a grant through USDA in North Carolina to put a farmer's market, a tailgate market in every county. Some of them are still going. The one in Henderson County has been going since it was started by Extension. So Extension started the concept of tailgate markets. So, from there, ASAP has built that marketing tremendously. They have money to cost share with a new farmer that we never had monies for, because that Farm Service Agency only helps larger farms. Now we have that in Western North Carolina. They cover about 23 counties, that organization does. And a lot of organizations across the nation are looking at that 501c3 to copy it. Say they're doing one in California now to try to build the local, help smaller farmers. And that's what that organization's about. And that's why I don't volunteer much for organizations, but that's why I agreed to be on the board of directors of that organization. And I'm the development director. I'm the person that helps get the money for that organization and build it in there. So we're now, if you're a young farmer and you're wanting to start out and you only have just maybe less than an acre and you're wanting to do a market garden, you can go to that organization and they can cost share 75% of your marketing materials, that kind of thing. So that's what that's about. They couldn't go to the government and get that as a
Mhm.
small farm. They have to be an established farm that's been around with the farm number and all these kind of things. Like Ellen, when you started farming, that would have been nice if ASAP had had that money to help you. You know, and, enough on ASAP. But the other organization that I'm really, and I helped start, is now I've started two more that you don't know about. But there's a big movement historically in the Appalachian region in Western North Carolina about native plants. We have the native plant group over at Western Carolina. We have native plants, but the big thing is we need it to be economically viable and it be a real business. So I have a forest farm. The medicinal herbs that we can grow here, we can't grow them anywhere else. There's hundreds of plants we can grow here that can't grow in a different biosphere. Myself and about 5 other extension agents and specialists got together and started what we call an herb grower group. And it's just for commercial. It could be a homeowner that has one bed in the backyard that wants to sell it. So it's no scale is not a problem. So we do education year round for that industry. And we have 400 people that are on our mailing list. We'll have 50 or so people show up at an event like with Gaia Herbs, one of the big herb growers here. They'll have us over and we can see what they're doing on that scale. Then we'll go to another small farm. It's up in Madison. That's less than an acre. And we see that scale. So that's what that's all about, support system. So then last year, a year and a half ago, I got this wild idea that I was getting all these calls from growers in the Piedmont wanting to do medicinal herbs. So now I have 5 agents there that I'm coaching, and we started another group there, much bigger, just boom, all of a sudden, than we have in the West. So now we got 2 groups I'm working with. And then 2 weeks ago, the coastal plains now are excited. So I'm going to help start a group there. So what I do is I pull agents together and then I coach them with my experience. But I think it's really helped to have that network. When you've got one bed of 20 pounds of golden seal, you can't.
Like, what am I going to do with this? Yeah.
Get to sell it.
Right, yeah.
So the network is what's helping that industry.
So for Piedmont and coastal, I'm assuming there's different plants that they
yes
focus on. That's
exactly.
cool.
Like I spent a lot of time with the Piedmont group. Well, you can't really grow ginseng down here, but we can grow black cohosh, or we can grow Chinese herbs, for the acupuncture industry, that kind of thing. They're doing a lot more into the medicinal / culinary, like a lot of the mints. We just got through doing a tea blend class in the Piedmont to teach people how to grow certain plants that you can make tea out of. Like I did calendula was the lecture I did because I wrote the leaflet on how to grow calendula. And then we had another agent would research another one. So we did like 4 different herbs that could be grown on a very small scale and sold to another entity like a tea blender, or they could blend their own. We actually have folks that are trying now to grow actual tea camellias. We have one farm.
I've heard about that. I've been
and they're cool. I just can't. I'm so excited about the one I found out one in I think it's South Carolina. I haven't been there yet, but we have 2 growers I'm helping that are trying to do that in our area here.
Nice. I figure our biome's similar to parts of Asia where that plant is so profusely cultivated that it makes sense that it could.
So the labor over there is cheaper. So that's why they could do large scale, like, crocuses and getting, what's the one that you get out of the crocus?
The saffron?
The saffron crocus.
Yeah.
Think about how it would take to harvest an acre of that by hand.
I had read an article. I get in the mail that free North Carolina agriculture magazine. It's called like Field and Farm or something. I don't know.
Like that. Yeah, I get it too.
And a couple years back, I remember the featured family farm in it was one that was growing saffron crocus somewhere here in North Carolina. It was further east. I was like, wow, they're doing that here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Or, like growing rice. We used to grow our own rice. And then, especially in New Orleans and North Carolina, South Carolina and Georgia, a lot of rice was grown. But, having a lot of the ethnic populations moving in here, we're now growing rice in North Carolina. It's so much fun to talk about it.
Can you share what else you might have involvement in within the region. Plant and nature-wise, past or present, be it professionally or personal hobby. For starters, I hear you're the self-proclaimed Pawpaw King.
Yes. I'm excited about that. And it's self-proclaimed because there's so many people now growing up, but I've been promoting pawpaws since 1982, trying to get people to grow them commercially. We have some orchards that are that old now in the Piedmont. That's the biggest movement, I think, are finding those niche crops that we can do that other people can't do in there. And pawpaws are grown tremendously in Ohio and Kentucky. That's where the research is done. But it's a high value crop for a small acreage. Some of the people that are successful may have 10 trees, and you're getting 50 pawpaws per tree. Even if you don't, do you know what a pawpaw is, Jennifer?
I do. I've unfortunately never been able to try one.
So in August, and I can't remember the date. I should look it up right quick. In August, I'm doing a lecture, and a bunch of pawpaw folks we're all networked. We're going to serve pawpaws. So you need to come to that, Jennifer. So you can. It's from 2 to 4, somewhere around the middle of August at Bullington. But I did a pawpaw festival when I was in the Piedmont for 6 years. And we got up to like 6,000 or 7,000 people that would come to that one. That's just my way of giving back to a garden. Yesterday, I did a lecture there and had about 30 people come, and then we charge them, and then the money goes to the coffers of the gardens. Is why we're doing that. So the pawpaws is the same thing. So like Kim Bailey and a few other, Andrew Nuss, some of the other pawpaw folks that have nurseries here, we're going to give their pawpaws so folks like you, Jennifer, can come and taste it and see what it's all about.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to say that I may know what it is, but like maybe you could briefly explain to our listeners and viewers what a pawpaw is, just in case they don't know, because
I should have done that to start with. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, pawpaws are the only native tree fruit for North America. Everything else has been kind of brought here. That one is naturally growing. Right now, they're probably on the creek banks more than anywhere else because we have killed them, by harvesting our timber and things like that. It's an understory tree, and the fruit itself is about the size of a mango and looks like a mango because most people know what mangoes look like. But the inside fruit pulp is more like a banana. It's kind of a custardy, soft fruit with its own flavor. It's described by many people as a citrusy, banana-y flavored fruit. Some people don't even like it. It's kind of a different flavored fruit, and it's been around forever. It just has not got a good shelf life. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't be shipped. Kentucky Fried Chicken wanted to have it as they wanted to have pawpaw ice cream as their feature, and when they started that company in Kentucky, and they wanted to have persimmon, American persimmons, but there was not enough post-harvest information at the time and refrigeration to keep that fruit to where they could make it on a large scale. Now we do. We freeze it. We have all these ways of doing it. I mean, there are chefs in Asheville buying 200 to 300 pounds in season, making a sorbet for the high-end restaurants. And that's what my farm is about, is pawpaws primarily. Okay. That's my main crop. 50 fruits on a tree at 13 ounces a piece. And, it's almost a pound, 16 ounces, and, $9 for one fruit. Profitable thing for very, very small farms that are out there. Did that help? Did that explain enough?
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of your farm then, your farm's here in Western North Carolina, which hopefully we'll get to do a little podcast field trip down there when things are more out of dormancy. But can you share with us some of the sorts of things you've been experimenting with? We know the pawpaws. You were mentioning wasabi before we started being on air here.
I think we first need to talk about production systems a little bit. I just mentioned that, if you're going to grow native plants, native things, unusual edibles, you can't do them conventionally. You've got to do them organically because we don't want things on them. If I'm sending my crop to have medicine made out of it, that kind of thing, we got to be very careful at what we do. So there's this real mix of systems of doing that. So you've got to embrace sustainable practice practices and organics if you're going to have a small forest farm. That's what I have. What I grow is medicinal herbs on a medium scale. I grow about 12 of them. I grow grub root. I grow what else? I do ginseng, golden seal, black cohosh, Indian cucumber root, yellow root. I just got through selling 1,000 bundles of yellow root. That's my medicinal end. So in my other forest farm that I'm growing, I do pawpaws. So I'm doing pawpaws as an understory and doing my growing in a permaculture concept. Instead of having things in rows, I have massive amounts of different kinds of fruit for me to eat, but not sell. I grow in patches. My blueberries are in patches. My pawpaw trees are an understory tree. Of course, they grow better in full sun. But if I'm going to grow them in the permaculture concept, I'm going to put them where they natively grow, which is underneath the shade. So I don't get as much fruit, but I'm being more sustainable. So I have a high level of an old growth forest that my husband and I have, and then we'll underbrush it and cut all the limbs till it's a lot of room in there. Then we put the understory pawpaws, and then under the pawpaws, I do ephemerals like the cohosh, or like stone root is another one that I'm growing in there. So you have all these different ones that I can sell in small batches. So in my experimentation of trying to do forest farming things, like watercress is a native plant that's very popular for people to eat in the mountain region. And I thought, well, I'm going to grow watercress and do that. So a friend of mine that was trading out labor doing ginseng, I was helping him plant his pawpaws. He was helping me. It was David Brown. He was helping me plant my stuff here, my ginseng. He goes, wow, your watercress is doing really good, but is it profitable? No, it's not, but it's nice to eat. You have to have a larger scale to do that. He said, you ought to grow wasabi. I said, what in the hell is wasabi? Sushi, and that was in sushi. And so
Yeah,
I
the green
experimented.
stuff.
That's the great stuff,
That's the green stuff.
Yeah. Well, in my learning about wasabi, I found out that there's two regions in the United States that it is just perfect for what's in Japan, where it's grown natively: the Pacific Northwest and Western North Carolina. And so, one of the biggest farms is in Western North Carolina that grows wasabi, and the second are probably about the same in the Pacific Northwest. So there's a team of us, about say 5 of us, that are trying to grow it, and we're successful. It's grown in cold water, full shade. I mean, full shade, perfect for my forest farm because I'm in the woods. I'm now making wasabi powder, wasabi salt, and we'll have my first hot rhizomes available probably this May or June, hopefully, to sell to restaurants. And pretty much anything that I can experiment with in the forest farm, we do, and we share that information. And we learn from each other with that herb group I told you about, Jennifer, earlier, the one that what we're doing. So that's how I found out, it's like, oh, I need some help with my ginseng. Oh, if you'll teach me how to plant it, I'll come down and work with you. So that's what we're doing, is sharing. And I think if we would do more of that on a larger scale, I think our economics would be so much better for each other. Instead of competing with each other, let's help each other.
Definitely.
And then you can get more variety, like everybody assumes like, well, if I'm going to be a farmer, I have to have 20 acres of all one thing. And it's like, well, no, why don't we just have this person experimenting with a little of this over here? And maybe you can't grow enough of it, but if you get enough people all throwing in, it can make it work.
Exactly. Ellen, I'm so in agreement with that. Sharing information. Like we just did our order for our wasabi plant. So I emailed everybody, and we'll just all combine our order together. Instead of paying $19 per plant, we're paying $3.50 per plant. So, there's a lady in Haywood County that's growing it, one in Jackson County, this guy in Jackson County is growing it, and they're not successful yet, but eventually they will be. David and I have been growing it now for 4 years, and I failed for the first two or 3 years, but I'm not giving up because it's such a high value crop for someone with a very small acreage. And if we can prove that, and then 5 other people grow it, then we're a lot better with that. Like with tomatoes. Tomatoes now big industry, but it wasn't to start with.
A lot of people there's probably more people with small amounts of land than large amounts of land. And you always hear that, oh, it's hard to make money as a farmer and stuff like that. And I think that if you can sort of prove otherwise, I know there's people who want to go into farming that maybe would get discouraged from not being able to actually make a living. So it's really cool.
Well, and forest farming, I like to be upfront about that, Jennifer. I mean, I feel like, on a small scale, we're not looking at a large income because you have to wait. Like if I'm growing black cohosh, it takes 3 years before I can even sell it. So most forest farmers are part-time income. You've got to have like other things, like most of us are making around $5,000 to $15,000 net a year off of a forest farm. That's not enough to make a full-time living in our region, but we can supplement with that, But something like wasabi as a high value or pawpaws as a high value, we can change that trend. And that's what I'm trying to do on my own for myself, but yet I'm going to share that with other farmers that's out there. And that's where we'll all be successful together if we share what I've learned with someone else that's trying to do that. We've got another lady said, "Oh, I want to try 50 plants, this year." Well, it'll probably work for her, but because we're all running our mouth and sharing our information, we can better economically support each other. And it's a community. It's part of the farming that's important that we're seeing is that you can be sustainable, you can be profitable, but you've got to be a part of your community. You've got to have the social aspect of farming for it to be sustainable.
There are some questions we like to ask every guest almost. And so one of them is, in this crazy ride of life, what are some ways which you ground yourself and connect with nature, just in general?
And I think everybody needs to take a walk with the plants. And I'm talking about, that's what I do. Regularly, even in your yard, instead of walking around going, how pretty is this? Really absorb your, hiking is my lifeblood, getting out there, whether it be just a short walk in the woods and literally growing things myself. I'm 68 years old. I don't have to have a forest farm, but that's where the passion is. I have sitting areas all over my 7 acres. To me, that's where it's at. And the other thing that really keeps me from just going completely nuts with, it's so busy, the world is so busy, is leaving my telephone in the house, walking outside, sitting on my porch and looking at the plants I've got. We don't see the mountains when we live here like people that are from not here. So take time to do that. That's what I think we all have to do.
It's funny you say that, because I even have noticed that a few times, like when I first moved back here from having been in the Midwest for a while. It's just like, the gateway, the mountains. And then the longer I've been here, I'll be like, sometimes I just step out of the grocery store and I'm like, oh yeah, there's mountains.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. If you've gone away, like when I was in Colombia for those 2 weeks to work with the Wayu people, when I come back, I'm like, wow, I just don't really appreciate, Plus, the other thing is, I'll say it anyway. I'm a Jeep freak. I love Jeeps, and I like to go for rides. It doesn't have to be four-wheeling in the craziness. I want to just get out there on the gravel roads, and the winter time is the most wonderful time to get outside and take a ride because you can see through the trees. It's amazing when you're on an old Forest Service road somewhere or over in Pisgah, and you just take your SUV or even your car and just drive around. The whole look of things are quite different. And then you really appreciate spring when it comes, and you get all revived when spring comes.
Is there anything real fast, anything exciting coming up for you, or anything you'd like to share right before we wrap up?
I think I've shared the things that I'm excited about coming up. The main thing is if folks will actually find their extension office and look at their calendar of events, because a lot of times they're promoting other things. I think that will be a really great place for people to find neat and unique classes that are out there. We're not the best in the world. Extension's not the best in the world at marketing. So, that's why, but just checking with those county offices and seeing what's coming up, was going to be helpful.
Okay, awesome. Well, Craig, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Ellen had to run off. She has a tiny human that needed some attention. We both appreciate you coming on. It was an honor. I definitely would love to chat again. We'd love to visit your farm
Sure.
and just take some video of it, do some more talk with about the plants that you have there. I'm just like
That'll be fun. Let's
we
do
love
that.
talk. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you, everyone listening and watching. We will talk to you next time. All right. Bye.